Hello, everybody. I'm just going to quickly explain how I cook my collard greens. I have done a video. I tried to go and do it a different way. Never mind. I'm going to delete that video anyway. Um, I'm beyond frustrated with this whole computer. And now the computer's acting up. So every time I try to do anything, there's windows popping up that shouldn't be here. So I don't know if this is even playing for you guys. But here goes. I take the collard bunches, I cut the rubber bands off them. Then I cut the ends off where the plant comes up and you see all the hard stems. I just cut the leaves free from the bases. So then all the leaves are individual. And then I draw a sink full of cold water and I add apple cider vinegar to the water. And then I go through and I put the good leaves in the water with the apple cider vinegar, and anything that's really yellowed or looks really badly damaged, I'll put into my compost pile. The reason for the apple cider vinegar is if there's any little bugs or anything hiding in there, the apple cider vinegar will wipe them out. So once I get them soaking in the apple cider vinegar water for about 30 minutes, then I'll come back, and what I do is I strip the thick stem that goes down the center of the leaves. And what I do is I grab the leaf, the two sides of the leaves, and bring them together. And then I just pull the stem and I make sure I get all the woody bits just pulled away from the leaf. And I'll put the leaf in a bowl and I'll put the stem in a pile to go to the compost. And I'll do that with every single leaf. I do not let any of that woody stem stay in my greens. I cannot stand that when it's just chopped up in the greens. I don't like that woody texture at all. So once I get all of those, the center real woody stem removed from all of the leaves, then I'll put them in some just clean, fresh, cool water and let them sit in that while I work with the ham hock. And I meant to grab the package, but it's okay. You can get cured ham hocks. You can get fat back, any cured meat, salted meat. Don't do it. And I use just a chunk, maybe about that wide, about that thick, and I just cut it thin, and I get a great big pot, and I put the fat back in the bottom, and I just cook it kind of on a low temp for about 15-20 minutes, stirring it periodically. And just get it browned a little bit, and to release some of the fat from the fat back or ham hock or whatever you're using. And once that has released some of the fat so it looks shiny in the bottom of your pot, and my pot's probably 18 inches tall, I'll go take my pot and set it on a hot pad by the sink, and I'll just pull the greens up out of the water. You're not trying to remove all of the water. You just take the greens and put them in the big pot and just keep pushing them down and just adding more until it's full to the brim. And then I add another cup of water in with it, because you want an inch or two of water in the very bottom of the pot. And a lot of water clings to the leaves as you're pulling them out of the sink and into the pot. And so about a cup gives me enough. And then as the greens cook, they release moisture. And as they cook, they will also go down in the pot. So, and I'll get them back on the stove, and I'll bring that pot to a rolling boil. And you got to stand with it, because if any of the leaves are laying flat, when it starts coming to a boil, they could stick the bottom and burn, and you don't want that. You don't. So I just stand there waiting for it to come to a boil and just kind of shoving the greens from the sides because the pot is so full, you can't really get in there and stir. So I just kind of move it back away from the sides just so that they're moving. When it gets to a rolling boil, then I turn it way down to almost the lowest setting. Not quite, but almost. You want it to keep just kind of, you can almost hear where it's, moving, like it's almost boiling. You want it at that type of simmer. And you put the lid on. And I set the timer for like every 15 minutes. And then I go and check it. As it cooks down, you'll want to get a big fork so that you can like turn the whole mass over so that the greens that haven't been in the water get in the water and the ones that have been get on top. So you just like every 15 minutes flip them once they get down to where you can. At the first 15 minutes you're not going to be there. You can just try to move it with a spoon or a fork some. But mine took about an hour and a half yesterday, and I did have to adjust that lower end temperature I was using. I bumped it up just a little bit just so that it had a more heat to it. And then once they're totally cooked, they'll change from that bright green at the beginning to an almost olive green. When they're an olivey green, they're done. And then I put them in my serving dish, and then I'll take a sharp knife and a fork and I'll smooth it out so they're all at the same level. And then I just do 1-inch cuts across the bowl. Then I turn the bowl and cut the other way. That's all the cutting my greens get. And then they're ready to eat. So that is how I cook them. And you leave the fatback or salt pork or ham hock or whatever you use to season with. You just leave it in there. Scott loves to get a piece of that with his greens. He just likes it. So that's how I cook collard greens. I really, really wish I could get the video up that I did a bunch of clips for. It's easier to show you than to talk about it like this, but my computer's acting crazy. OpenShot's not working. It's just been a nightmare. So I hope that this will do. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. So this is how I learned to cook collard greens from my mother-in-law, because I'm a Yankee from New York and I had to get trained on how to cook collard greens. But that's how she's always done it. That's how Scott likes them. So I just wanted to share. Someone asked if I would. I think it was Cindy. One of the Cindys. We have a lot of Cindys. So I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. I'm off to do the grandma's baked beans from scratch and the ribbon salad or layered salad or whatever it is. So I'll see y'all later. Bye. This computer is just driving me nuts.